Welcome back, everyone, to another Company of Heroes 2 replay cast. And this time, we are going to have a 2v2, as you can see on Alliance of Defiance. There's snow coming in, and it looks pretty cool. And I've actually just played a Company of Heroes 2 game. Yeah, I know, right? So my game knowledge is going to be stellar. Anyway, it's going to be sent in by Black Panther, of course, Olumelu, who is going to be playing as the Wehrmacht. His buddy is going to be Captain Spears down here as the OKW, and he's a pretty good player. So I'm pretty excited to see what's going to happen. And the enemy players are going to be El Soko, or El Zako, and Omni, with the meme font, or I don't know, whatever. Alright, two machine guns already coming out for Black Panther. So Black Panther is going to really want to... Oh my god. Anyway, he's going to really want to lock down the sector of the front. Of course, Alliance of Defiance. Never actually... if you've never actually played this map, let's check it out. We have, of course, Field Point over here with a relatively obvious cutoff in this point. Same thing on the other side with a relatively obvious cutoff as well. So relatively specular. And also quite narrow. As you can see, there's basically 3 lanes, even though it's not the most laney map ever. There's more laney things out there like, I don't know, Minsk Pocket or something like that. Minsk Pocket is not the best thing ever, but yeah, as you can see, it's relatively narrow. It's kind of rectangle shaped and very big actually for a 2v2. Is it me or is it very big? I don't know, whatever. So MG on the left hand side doing its own thing, and that's going to be very strong, of course, against the Americans, but the Americans smartly getting a rifleman over here to flank so Omni can get something behind this machine gun. Of course, there's another machine gun behind the machine gun, so yeah, there's a bit of a machine gunception, and that could be to Black Panther's advantage, of course. And I wonder if Black Panther went to see Black Panther. Haha, so funny. Anyway, yeah, as you can see, as soon as the riflemen come into view, MG42 sets up, and you are flanked. So, yep. At this point, the machine gun is gonna have to escape the first rifleman squad. Actually, no, this is a... okay, so that's the first rifleman squad. Still, though, this means that the Germans are going to have a relatively secure position over here. Although they're not going to have the fuel point, of course. The natural American fuel is going to be American. But the Americans are also pushing up on the other fuel point very aggressively. So El Zako is trying to get his riflemen into this building. However, there's only a couple of windows where he can fire into these Volksgrenadiers waiting down below. So it's actually going to be a pretty hard thing for him to get a lot of firepower on these German troops, and the Germans are just outnumbering them in terms of rifles. So with many more rifles in the field compared to the Americans, they're just getting more firepower and they're forcing them back, as you can see. So Captain Spears is going to get that field point in the south, secure it for Deutschland, you know, Vaterland and all of that. And yeah, that's going to be great for the Germans, not so great for the Allies. Once again, Pioneers rushing up to get into that house. Of course, these riflemen are getting some good flanking fire on the machine gun, MG42. However, with the help of these Grenadiers and these Pioneers, this should be relatively easy for the Germans to clean up. They can clean up these riflemen, clean up the mortar, and then just establish their defenses over here on the field point, which is very good, of course. So Americans not having the best of times. However, it is pretty even as a whole because of how aggressive the Americans were earlier. Still, they need to try to find some way back into this. They're going to try to get some more riflemen out. They're going to try to use their mortars to good advantage. And if they can do that, then I'm guessing at least one side is going to be reclaimed by freedom. We're going to see. So the south is defended by Captain Spears with sandbags and Volksgrenadiers at every turn. Although this is really going to give the enemies an opportunity to kind of free-on-one enemy squads. As you can see, three American squads against 1 German squad. So that's not going to go down all that well for the Germans, even if they had the heavy cover. Of course, here comes some reinforcements, and now it's not going to be all that bad for them. So Captain Spear is actually going for a very heavy Volksgrenadier opening. It's going to pay off, actually, as he's pushing back the Americans, and he's really putting a lot of pressure into the manpower of El Zako. As you can see, he's only got 130 manpower, taking some pretty heavy casualties. Massive mortar hit, unfortunately. And, yeah, as you can see, forcing them back with the Stern Pioneer flank over here. pretty well. And, ooh, this could be a wipe. He probably retreated early enough. Yeah, he's not going to get wiped. Still, though, Stern Pioneer is doing a lot of work. And, yeah, that's not going to be good for the Americans, as the mortar is going to be forced back again. Heavy casualties from El Saco. Ooh, wow, that mortar hit did do a lot of damage, but that's not enough because the field is still German, both on the left side and the right side. So that's going to be bad for the Americans, as they're being deprived of fuel, or they're being deprived of their vital resources. So as you can see, only going for the lieutenant right now at 5.5 minutes for Omni. And for El Saco, well, we've got the lieutenant. So actually, both of them going lieutenant. This could be a pretty potentially bad idea. They're lucky that Captain Spears went safe for the battle quarters, although he is going with the flak half-track. So overall, any light vehicles from the Germans are going to be hard to counter for the Allies, especially without Captain, without even... whatchamacallit, without even recon support to call in those AT guns with paradrops. So only El Zacco's airborne company, well, actually, okay, both of them have airborne company. So only airborne company is going to give them anti-tank guns. And this could be relatively bad. In fact, this could be very bad. Riflemen being wasted up in the north, and in the south, oh, Volksgrenadiers being wasted. Well done by El Zacco. So that was, of course, the mortar, once again paying off, doing a lot of damage. Not many kills, but a lot of damage to German troops. So this is good, of course. And we're going to see, however, how they deal with that flak half-track, because there is an M20 coming in. That's not going to be enough, though, if the flak half-track is used correctly. 2 mortars over here by Black Panther. Of course, Black Panther is going for tier 1. The battle phase is coming in. Actually, no, tier 2. The battle phase coming in, and... I think he's gonna just get battle phase 2 and try to go for, like, I don't know, a P4 or something. Although, getting the tier 2 is gonna be pretty important. Nice cutoff move, however, cutting off the cutoff with these Pioneers manages to keep that fuel point in supply. So that is well done by Black Panther. And of course, the flak half-track can just come in and do some damage. Although the riflemen are veteran C1 over here, so they are gonna get that anti-tank rifle grenade in there and slow it down at least for a little bit. So the flak half-track, not gonna have the most impact right now because it's gonna need to wait for repairs. And actually, this allows Omni in the south to pick airborne company and capture the fuel point. So we have the M20 up here in the north trying to do something, and we have a paradrop of the 50 cal coming in. And that's really now paradrop 50 cal. Why? Also, where? I don't know where he dropped that 50 cal. That's a relatively bad idea. I mean, 260 manpower, 280 manpower. So it's actually cheaper to just buy it, because here you take it with the rifleman squad and then you're going to have to reinforce 3 riflemen. So that's 28 manpower times 3. So that's 60, 16, 24, 84 manpower. So you just paid 364 manpower for the machine gun instead of 280. Why? I mean, I guess you get it faster. You just drop it in there instead of having to wait for the build time. Oh, I have no idea. Anyway, it's not really that big of a deal. Of course, in the south, what is a really big deal is the fact that Captain Spears, as you can see, he is enveloping this position. I think he's going to be able to encircle them and essentially not only cut them off with the points, he's also going to cut them off in terms of the retreat path. So right now, as you can see, El Taco is having to like spread out all of his units like marmalade, and he's not really going to be strong to defend anywhere. He's going to need to just kind of feel out the Germans where they are and all of that. Mortar crew going down to the nasty fire of the flak half-track. Well done, using his flak half-track to support his ally. So Captain Spears is able to get some good support in for Black Panther. Black Panther is also pushing up with his grenadiers at the same time, so not leaving his ally to die. And that's very, very well done by the Germans, getting some good cooperation in here. And now they're trying to go for the M20, even though I don't think they know it's there. And now they do, actually. So, yeah, flak half-track can get some good rear armor hits onto that. Pop some smoke, of course, allows it to escape, but yeah, whatever. Still, riflemen doing their own thing. Okay, so a little bit of a pushback from the Americans in the center, but of course the north is being captured by the Germans, so it's a net even kind of. A half-track on the field for El Soco. That's, yeah, that's an interesting idea because it's going to be relatively decent against the flak of the Germans. However, at 10 minutes in the game, that A half-track is going to face a lot of opposition from Raketenwerfers and lots of nasty bad things for the access. Of course, Black Panther hasn't went for tier 2. Hasn't gone for tier 2. Hasn't gone for tier 2. Hasn't gone for tier 3. No, he is going for tier 2 right now. Does he have battle phase 2? Is that the question? No, he does not. Once he gets the manpower, I wonder if he's going to go for that because right now he's got a lot of fuel. So his teching choices are going to be pretty important to the development of this game. Right now, of course, his Grenadiers have to escape, and he doesn't really have any AT. So, of course, the M20 can get some good damage on him. And that's pretty bad for the access, as Captain Spears is the only one with, like, AT and anti-vehicle. So he's in a much better position than Black Panther. Black Panther is going to have to kind of build up right now. He's got a lot of infantry. He's got a lot of support weapons. And damn, nasty damage coming in from that. Flak half-track destroys the enemy flak half-track. Well done. That was more damage than I expected, actually. So M51 really, or M15, sorry, proving its mettle and doing some good killing. That's gonna definitely improve the position of the Germans, or not of the Germans, of the Allies in the center. As you can see, this whole central area was dominated by the flak. So now it should be dominated by the other flak. Although, with the Raketenwerfer being on the field over here by Captain Spears, it might be a little bit different. And funnily enough, we're seeing the Germans really push up into the center area, and the Allies kind of fall back onto their flanks. Not really sure I'm liking that too much. M20 chases down the machine gun crew. This might not be the best idea ever because it is a machine gun crew, so it's going to get recrewed, and actually it doesn't even get the kill, and there's some Grenadiers. No, there's no Grenadiers, luckily for it. So he's going to survive with that M20. Of course, M20 relatively decent at chasing down enemy units, but not the most firepower in the later stages of the game, and especially very, 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 very vulnerable. So it needs to be careful, and also very valuable as a mine layer. So right now, Omni not going for any M6 anti-tank mines is probably a pretty bad idea, because he needs those M6 anti-tank mines. He does not have, well, he does have an AT gun that he pair dropped, but still, he'd rather have those M6 anti-tank mines used from the 150 fuel or munitions that he has, because, well, those are pretty good. They're pretty good. Of course, both American players going airborne might pose some issues later on in the game when there's going to be no Pershings. Nasty mortar hit, going to force back those American airborne where they came from. And yeah, MG42 is pushing up, providing the perimeter that the Germans need to establish their defensive positions. So, of course, lots of zones of suppression, if you may, where the Allied infantry really cannot move into. Right now, as you can see, that M20 is still providing some good fire support for the American infantry, but it's not enough, really. As you can see, the Axis sort of infantry tide is moving up, and once the Axis infantry tide turns into an Axis armor tide, things are going to get much, much worse for the Allies. And as you can see, we do have Panzer Fusiliers coming in from Captain Spears, so that's going to mean that he's going for the Jagdtiger, or well, at least Breakthrough Doctrine. We're going to see about the Jagdtiger, and yeah, I would really like to see a Panzer IV out of him, because it would be very useful against everything that the Americans have right about now. Back 40 AT gun coming in from Black Panther, clearly a good decision, just in case the enemy gets a Sherman or something, and it is starting to get to time for something like that. I mean, no battalion command post out for Soko yet, nor for Omni, but we might see that soon, and I feel like, well, it would be a no-brainer for both of these American players to really go for that. So, yeah, go for the Major. No reason not to. Oh, that's a lot of damage. Panzer Fusiliers really proving themselves worthy. Lots of explosions, of course, coming in. But yeah, so the south is being recaptured by the Germans, and the Germans have the Americans down to 370 VPs. That's not the best situation ever for the Allies, as the Allies right now, they have a very decent infantry force. They have a very, very decent light force. The problem is they're soon going to start to face German armor. And with the German armor being on the field and only 257s is sort of around to stop them, I'm gonna be holding this on the Germans to lose, because once they start to get some decent armor, and with Black Panther having 300 fuel and Captain Spears 116, that's gonna come out soon. With the Germans having that kind of fuel, they can get some nasty armor on the field. So Black Panther right now, what is he trying to do? Well, he doesn't have any tier over 2, and he doesn't have any battle phase over 1. So I'm thinking he's going for the Tiger. Of course, he does have Spearhead over here. Oh, no. Oh. They look the same, but actually different. This is Jaeger Infantry. He's got the Tiger Ace, but not the normal Tiger. So I'm not quite sure why he's not going for those later tiers. Oh, no, he is. Okay. So now he's using up some fuel. Getting that Battle Phase 2. At this point in the game, might as well go for Battle Phase 3 and get himself a Broom Bear or something like that. Because with the Americans being proven that they're both airborne, there's really no reason not to get the Broom Bear. I mean, the worst you're going to face is Jacksons. And with the Broom Bear against Jacksons, all that you need to do really is stick by your anti-tank guns. If you stick by your anti-tank guns are going to kill the Jacksons faster than a Jackson can kill the Broom Bear. So, yeah, I feel like the Germans have this. I mean, just get a Broom Bear, get a Broom Bear plus, get whatever this guy's doing. Yeah, he's going for the Panzer IV, exactly what I would have done. And just massacre the infantry and make them bleed. Make them bleed really hard. Although, well done by El Taco. He's going to get a nice rifleman flank, but just absolutely out of nowhere, there's a machine gun over here, and so that flank is gonna get stopped dead in its tracks. In the meantime, in the center, we have an attempt at a push by the Germans that's gonna get repulsed by the Allied light vehicles. Here comes the A half-track, but it's very aggressive, and it's gonna get Rakenwerfered in the butt, and that's unfortunately gonna mean the end of the flak half-track as it tries to, walk across, or rather tread across the Rakenwerfer's arc of fire straight into another Rakenwerfer, or rather the Pak 40, sorry. So that was kind of like one of those movies, like The Last Samurai or something, where they charge through the first defense, and then they, they're thinking like, yeah, we can do this, hopeless charge against all odds, and then they crest the hill or something, and there's like 17 million more enemies, and they mow them down or something like that. That was exactly that charge, and he's in fact gonna get turned into fuel by Captain Spears. Well done by that Stern Pioneer. He did not forget about the salvage. Salvage, always a good thing to do. Even if it doesn't give you all that much resources, it's free resources, so might as well. And it's also kind of like a pissing on their graves, because, they lost their vehicle, and that gives you resources as well. So twisting the knife in the wound from the frying pan into the fire. What are the Americans doing? Well, we have an M8 Scott. That's actually a surprising move by Omni, but I think a good one. Because he's going to have need of things that can deal with anti-tank guns. Anti-tank guns and mortars. Because he's going to need to get Jacksons out to defend himself against enemy armor. So anti-tank guns are going to really be a big worry for him. And mortars, because he's going to need infantry. He's going to need a lot of it in order to at least go toe-to-toe with the Germans, and that infantry is going to likely be airborne with LMGs, 1919s, and they are particularly vulnerable to mortars because they kind of need to stand still to fire those M1919s. And also he's got a machine gun over here, a 50 caliber, and he's got a mortar, not a mortar, an anti-tank gun. He also used to have a mortar, but I guess it's dead or something. Did it get stolen? That's a stolen mortar, so that's pretty sad for him. So basically, what Omni needs is a light artillery piece that can counter the mortars. And he's got that in the M8 howitzer mortar carriage. He would. Oh, that's nasty. That's very bad. Very bad indeed for El Taco. He's losing an anti-tank gun and a machine gun. Because as you can see, that was his only support. He's now got a mortar, but that's really not gonna... That's not going to be a zone control. It's not going to prevent enemy armor from moving anywhere. It's not going to prevent the enemy infantry from moving anywhere. He's going for a Sherman, but he's going to be so vulnerable to that armor. especially considering that Captain Spears is playing very well with his Rakenrifer, as you can see, already up to Veteran C2, microing the shit out of that thing. And using it to push up along with the Panzer IV is exactly the role of this Rakenrifer, supporting that Panzer IV. The Panzer IV can deal with the infantry, the Rakenrifer can deal with the enemy vehicles. And as you can see, that worked perfectly against the M8 Scott, which, to be fair, is not, you know, not the biggest challenge to German armor, but hey, it's okay nonetheless. Here comes some nasty anti-tank grenades, and the P-47s are gonna come in. Eagles of Freedom. I've just knocked my headphone out of my ears, but here he comes. He's gonna do a lot of damage. However, as you can see, the American infantry is being massacred by these Sturm Pioneers, so absolutely nothing is able to support those P-47s and, you know, provide line of sight for these anti-tank guns. And unfortunately for the Allies, that push is gonna end up not disastrously, but definitely not well either. And as you can see, the Sherman tries to move in and push, but there's nothing for it to push against, because whatever the Germans had that could have been a target for it has been pulled back, and now there's a Stug hunting it, which is a funny sight. What is the Stug trying to do? There's a couple of funny obstacles in the way that are going to prevent it from doing anything. M20 still alive, still no M20 mines anywhere. That's actually a pretty bad decision in my opinion, because that M20 mine would be coming in very handy against that Panzer IV. In fact, if there had been an M20 mine, for example, over here, which is still relatively back towards the American territory, well, that Panzer IV would not have been able to chase through the M8. So, yeah, M20 mines, they're good. If you somehow get your M20 to survive to the late game, might as well make use of them. Zooks trying to fire, but yeah, the Grenadiers with the Veteran C3, they're starting to get a little bit too hard for the Riflemen to deal with. So of course, the Americans are going to have to start relying on the paratroopers to really work down the German infantry. The paratroopers can win against the Vet-3 Grenadiers, even at long range. However, it's going to be hard for just the paratroopers to deal with it, and so, of course, support of veteran units like this Lieutenant is going to be necessary. However, the Germans have the ace up their sleeve, that being the machine guns, and machine guns are doing quite well, and of course, the armor superiority still lies with the Germans. So, considering that the Americans are completely ignoring the left-hand side, and they're leaving, you know, they're leaving basically Black Panther to sit up and fortify this position almost 100% without problems, this is really starting to be looking bad for the Allies, because if 2v1.5 they're not able to win, soon enough the rest of Black Panther's forces are going to be free to move down, and they're going to have essentially all this resources and all this VP pressure coming in for free. So right now the Allies really need to get some harassment going on the left-hand side. They really need to start to at least... Oh wow, the M20 is dead. They really need to start to get some pressure going on the Axis on multiple flanks. As you can see now, they are able to push in, but it's a little bit too late. MG42 getting some good suppression on there, and yeah, that's going to end that push before it started. And the Allies are down to 200. Of course, partially thanks to the triple cap, and right now the Allies are trying to reverse that, but the Panzer IV is just being so incredibly good at defeating that. Of course, a second Panzer IV. This is the second one for Captain Spears. So he's really going heavy on those Panzer IVs, and I think that that's a good idea, because their versatility is what the Germans need right now. They don't need any more weird micro on their hands. They need to just continue pushing. And yeah, as you can see, versatile units are going to be the way for them, because they don't really need anything too specialized. They just need something that can push up, provide pressure, that's not too difficult to micro, especially because they want to avoid micro mistakes where they lose just random units in no useful manner, because that's what's going to provide the Allies with comeback opportunities. Of course, the Allies weaker on the late game, so the Germans really have all the time in the world. If they can get this triple cap, and right now they're doing so with a relatively safe margin, well then, they're going to be in a great spot, because the Allies are just always, even if they somehow reverse this, and they're not looking like they're going to reverse this, as the second M8 goes down once again. even if they manage to reverse this triple cap somehow, they're still going to have this sort of Damocles type of thing where they're going to be low on VPs. And as you can see right now, the blob is moving up. This is exactly what you don't want to do against the P4. The P4 has some pretty nasty HE from that 75mm long barreled. And right now, this is going to be pretty bad for this American infantry. As you can see, lots of damage coming through as well with the incendiary grenades. P-47s, no, that's not P-47s, that's major artillery, so not really going to do anything. Plank, oh no, that did many damage. And I think that this is going to be the end, so Allies are going to surrender. What could they have done differently? Well, Jackson's for one, and Jackson's, of course, would have been countered by the Elephant tank destroyer, but it would have been better than nothing. At least one player going for the captain, absolutely required, especially on a kind of map like this. And I feel like both of them going airborne was a big mistake, because this was a map where they needed at least one player to go either Pershing or Calliope. Calliope would have been very, very, very strong, I feel like. Calliope or Priest to a lesser degree, but really the Calliope would have provided that nice punch. And you can't see this right now, but I'm punching right now myself. And yeah, they would have provided that nice punch that they would have required to deal with all the infantry and especially all those machine guns and mortars that were doing so much work in area denial against the enemy infantry. Because as you can see, like Black Panther, 2 mortars, Captain Spears, the stolen American mortar, Captain Spears, veteran C2 machine gun, lots of damage, Rakenwerfer, 2 machine guns, one of them Vet 3, another one Vet 2. So it's pretty clear that these support weapons did a lot of work, especially also with the support of these bunkers later on. They didn't really have as much sort of ground to cover of their own, so they could concentrate a little bit further onto one sector. And that sort of meant that the Germans, after capturing this left-hand side, they could just lock that down and then fight for the center and the right and contest that. So once the Germans had the secure supply of that fuel point and they could secure the second fuel point, at that point there was nothing the Allies could do, because they could just never get that nice big push in, and either push or push and hold was always really their big problem, because sometimes they were able to push back against the Germans, but they could never hold because the Germans had the better mortars, because the Germans got the vehicles first. And so really, in part, sort of losing those first few engagements, and in part, you know, not really going for differentiated strategies, because essentially both of these Allied players went for the same thing. So in the end, the Germans could easily counter both of them at once. And in the end, they were just slowly but surely pushed back. So that's my 2 cents on it. If you have any other interpretation, feel free to share it. So I want to thank you all for watching. Is that a Teller mine? Yes. So also no M20 mines. Bad idea. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you soon.